Hi, and welcome to Mark's Motivational Podcast for this Monday evening. You're all very welcome along. So tonight, I'm delighted to be having another guest on the podcast tonight, Jeremy Murphy. He's a founder of JM Editing and Literacy Agency. So you're very welcome along tonight, Jeremy.
Thank you, Mark. It's a real privilege and pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you very much. Yeah. So we'll probably start off the interview to talk about your company. Do you want to talk a bit about what you do, what your background is?
Absolutely, Mark. Yeah, so it's a very comprehensive editing literary agency service for writers.
Yeah.
So we help writers at all stages of their book journey.
Yeah.
So whether that be editing, copy editing, manuscript appraisal,
Yeah.
and then the next stage, when they have their manuscripts ready, when they have a book they're happy with, we can help them get a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very comprehensive service. The literary agency side is really something I just started last year.
Yeah.
So it's probably the aspirational side of the business, but I'm very excited about that. We actually have a literary agency catalog coming out this year, which will profile all the writers I represent as an agent, and that'll be sent off to publishers. That'll be used as a vehicle to promote them, to represent them to publishers. But the editing side of things, Mark, that's really been I've been doing that for a few years now, and it's
Mm.
really it's quite advanced. And I have been helping authors as an editor, appraising their books, giving them feedback, giving them advice, and yeah, that's my very much my labor of love.
Brilliant, Jeremy. That sounds really, really good. And how did you get into that line of business yourself, Jeremy? How long have you been at it yourself? What got you interested in it, like, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's well. I suppose I've always been interested in books, Mark.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
I've always been a big reader.
Mm-hmm.
I was a writer as well, so it
Okay.
was probably a natural step when you're writing your own book
Mm-hmm.
to sort of switch sides and help other people write their books. Um, I guess, Mark, to be honest, I think about 4 years ago, I was very much looking for something to do, not really know where I was going,
Mm-hmm.
and I started offering my services initially as an academic editor.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would take dissertations, theses, and so forth, and proof them and edit them for students. It could be restructuring sentences, it could be proofing for grammatical errors and so forth. And I offered that, and it was really evolved out of that I started more specializing and concentrating on books.
Yeah.
So that's really how it evolved.
Yeah. Well done. That's great. And I hope the company's doing really well for you. I hope it's been a real success for you, like, Jeremy.
Well, it is going good. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's going better than anyone ever said it would. Anyway,
Brilliant.
Mark, when I
Yeah.
said when I told people I was going to go into this,
Mm.
I was going to start a business like this, they said I was crazy. They said if you were going to start a business, you might as well go into something more lucrative.
Mm.
But it's going better than people expected,
Great.
and it's going all right at the moment. Obviously, big caveat: we're in uncertain times.
Mm-hmm.
We're going into troubled waters, so it's very difficult to know at this stage what the future holds. But I'm happy. I'm happy with things. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. So that leads nice to the next question, Jeremy. Like, how do you find with COVID? Like, is COVID and the lockdown changing people's reading habits? Do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Mark. It's COVID and lockdown. I think it is. I think it is. I think my impression is, I think initially when the first lockdown happened back in last March,
Mm.
I think people did read more.
Yeah.
I think that the the context of being at home more, maybe having more free time, gave them the opportunity maybe to invest a bit more time into reading. Um, like it certainly reflected some of the publishers, particularly the big corporate publishers, actually had a very good year last year.
Mm.
I think Bloomsbury had record sales, or at least best sales in 10 years or something like that. A lot of the publishers did very well here too. I think Penguin Ireland had a very good year, and Gill, another the bigger ones. So I think people were reading more.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to last long term or not, I don't know. Is that a circumstantial thing? Is it simply the case people have more time, Mark, in they have more time to read? I suppose the more interesting question uh, is which I think you're asking really is that are people's reading habits changing? Are they reading a different type of book?
Yeah. Do you think they're,
And
yeah,
that's the interesting one, Mark, isn't it?
it is, yeah, yeah. Because myself personally, like I've really got interested in reading different kind of non-fiction books over the last year or so, Jeremy. Like I've interested in a lot of like around NLP and self-help and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting stuff. Like there's a really good book that I got very interested in called The Power of Habits. It's I don't know if you've come across that one. It's really really good. Is there any kind of stand-up books that you've helped authors with that you could think of, hand, Jeremy?
Oh, absolutely. Many ones. And just to following on from what you said there, I think you're probably right.
Mm.
I think that's interesting. Like I know after the September the 11th
Yeah.
that people noticed a shift toward nonfiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That people wanted facts, they wanted information,
Yeah.
they wanted, they felt they were in that the time called for nonfiction facts, and there was a sort of a temporary um, diversion away from fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I think this is slightly different. I actually think there's a lot of, I think I definitely agree with you. I think a lot of people need nonfiction.
Mm.
They need facts. They need information. That hunger is still there. But I do think there is an interest in narrative and story as well out there at the moment. And I think that would be an interesting ex- topic to explore. But on the other subject, Mark, yeah, absolutely, some very interesting books.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
very interesting books I'm working with. I worked with since since March last year and this year, the kind of the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
I have really had the privilege of working with some great writers, some great books. The catalog will really showcase many of them, and
Great.
I'm really excited about that. Um,
Yeah. And has there been many? That's brilliant. Like, and has there been many success stories that you can think of someone that you followed the journey started with you, like with them, and then it matured? Can you think of any examples like that for the listeners? I'm sure there's a few. Yeah.
oh yeah, there are a few.
Right.
Hopefully there'll be more now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, there's definitely some success stories. There's many examples. Like there's an example, two recent examples actually in the last months,
Yeah.
Mark. Two very different books.
Okay.
One is a book by a priest who's sadly deceased,
Oh.
and it's a very interesting book. It's kind of something I think you like, uh, going by your literary taste there. It's really on the subject of meaning
Okay.
and the lack on the sense of meaninglessness in the modern world. And I'm a bit vague on the details now because we're in advanced negotiation with a publisher at
Oh, of
present.
course. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And I think the ink is more or less on paper, but it's not quite finalized yet. But it should be published this year, or early next year. And it's a very interesting book. It's written by a former priest. He's sadly deceased, but he was an academic as well, and his passion really in life was philosophy, phenomenology.
Mm.
But while those subjects are abstract, while phenomenology is an abstract subject, I really think The book is about meaning, and I'm very excited about that. There is another book actually published this month, which I worked on, is a very interesting romantic novel
Okay.
uh, set in Kerry, and of course I'm based in Kerry, so that's
Yeah.
great. It's by a very talented young novelist called Maura O'Leary,
Okay.
and the book is called Freewheeling to Love, and you can I think it's available on Amazon and on Book Depository and so forth. And it's a romantic novel. It has a bit of a dark, edgy element to it as well,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a good success. It was great to see. I worked with more on the very early stages. I read her first draft as such, and I did an appraisal. So it's a good example of a book where really I was there at the very beginning and the end.
Mm-hmm.
I did appraisal, I gave her feedback, then she incorporated that, then she came back to me again when she had the next draft, and I read it again and I gave her more tips. And it was great to see it evolve and develop.
That's great. Yeah.
And then I think within the last few weeks she published it. So very, very good. And I wish her all success. And it's a very interesting book. It's set in Kerry, contemporary Kerry, which is really refreshing because, like, so much. I think it's refreshing to see a novel set in contemporary Kerry, and like I say, a romantic novel, but with an edgy, dark twist. So that was very interesting.
Sounds very good. Like it must be a really exciting experience for yourself as well. Like to see all the stages of the book developing. That must be a really real buzz for you, Jeremy. Is it?
It is, Mark. Yes, no, that is an exciting aspect of the job,
Yeah.
definitely. It's lovely and satisfying and gratifying, Mark, when
Mm.
and Maura was like this in this respect, as was Father Garrod, even though unfortunately I never, sadly he had passed when I worked on the book. It was also a book where I could see develop.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it is satisfying and gratifying when you see when you do an appraisal for an author and the author incorporates some of your ideas, and then the author comes back in the next draft, it's improved after, and the author finds, and if author finds that they're benefiting from the editing appraisal, that's very gratifying.
That sounds really, really good. Yeah. And Jeremy, you know the way at the moment things are changing for publishing, like self-publishing. There's different avenues, isn't there, for first-time writers who's thinking of have a manuscript there and are thinking of going down different routes. So could you maybe talk to the listeners about that, the different options they have, Jeremy?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Mark. There are many options. You're right. Um, there's the traditional publishing route,
Mm-hmm.
which is there. So and just to outline for listeners what I mean by that, in the traditional publishing route, you get a trade publisher to publish your book. So they take your book, they do editing in some cases, they do marketing, promotion, distribution, the bookstores. So that's the traditional publishing
Yeah.
arrangement. And when people think of publishing, they mostly think of that. That's still there. And it really works for so many writers.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, although it's becoming a bit of a concentrated industry, there's still a big variety of different publishing companies. So that's there. But you're right; they are alternatives, and they have become more common in recent years.
Yeah.
And of course, there's self-publishing. That's a big word, and that's as you know, Mark, yourself,
Yeah.
that entails so much.
Mm.
But to make a very long story short, self-publishing is when the writer really does all the things the publisher does
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
themselves. Now they may hire people to do them, of course, or they may collaborate with people, but rather than going through a company, you're doing it yourself. So there's editing, there's promotion, marketing, distribution, so forth. You're doing that yourself or within your own team.
Mm.
And yes, that's definitely an option.
Mm.
Some people have been very successful.
Yeah.
There is a good just to give one example of someone who's been successful with that route. There's a very interesting British horror writer called Adam Neville,
Mm.
and he was published by a major publishing company, had success, and decided, I think, halfway through his career to try self-publishing.
Mm.
And I think his story is a great illustration of what it takes. I think he has had success. I think his most recent book is, I think, of all his books, is the second most successful book he's published. So it just proves that you can be successful self-publishing. But of course, his story is also a cautionary tale in the respect that he will admit that it took an awful amount of work.
Mm.
And that's the thing with self-publishing. To really get it right, it does take an awful lot of work, and you have to do an awful lot. And he is because of your self-publishing, you end up doing so much of your marketing.
Yeah, yeah.
You're on social media, you're liaising with journalists, you're doing you're trying to get into the press, you're trying to get on the radio, you're doing so much of that yourself that it really, really is a Herculean task.
Yeah.
But it for both, like all options with authors, unfortunately, are tough. There's no easy way of getting a lot of readers. There's an awful lot of books being published at present, Mark.
Yeah.
And the bookstores and libraries are flooded with new books.
Mm-hmm.
So it is tough. Either option is tough. But there is for many people have had success. So there is plenty of cause for optimism.
Because myself personally, I went down the route. A lot for some writers who've written books would go down that option of self-publishing, because it's a lot easier now from when it was before. By talking to different people, it probably was a lot more tougher, because a lot of stuff is done easy for you on Amazon when you are publishing. Isn't that correct, Jeremy? Like it's kind of makes it more straightforward for people now, doesn't it, for self-publishing?
It does. I suppose, like, it depends. It depends very much, and that's a good question, because that fleshes it out a bit. It depends, Mark, really what you want to achieve.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you have, like, say, a local history book about a town or about a GA club or something like that,
mm-hmm.
and you've written it as good, and you want 1,000 copies, and you want to distribute it, and you have a small readership. So it could be the local members of the town or a village, or it could be the local members of GA Club, and you want to create a book, a history book, 1,000 copies. Then if that's your objective, self-publishing is the perfect option. The self-publishing route. If you want to sell millions of books, if you're very ambitious and you want to sort of win prizes and be in the paper every week and have adoring fans, it's very hard to achieve that in a self-publishing model.
Yeah.
Not impossible. There are one or two examples. Not impossible, but it is very, very hard. So it really, really depends on where you are, what you want. Yeah. But like both options, it's not a case of either or. It's not a case of both options are good, depending on the writer and depending on the objective.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, because there is a third option. I heard somebody talking about. It's not self-publishing, but you're an author. A publisher publish a book for you on self-publishing. Is there something like that I heard before? I don't know the correct terminology, but there's a different option, isn't there, Jeremy?
Yeah, well, I suppose that there probably is. Like there's lots of different options, Mark. There's there's what used to be called vanity publishing.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Sorry. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
Well, there is, and that might have a bit of a stigma in the respect that you're paying a publisher to publish your book. So, in the traditional trade publishing arrangement, the author would get a commission on sales, and the publisher's income would purely come from sales. While in vanity publishing, the author would pay something in advance to the publisher.
Yeah.
Now, with the world we live in, they made that line, Mark, and you're dead right in saying this, that line might be blurring
Mm.
between trade publishing, where the publisher's income comes from sales, versus vanity publishing, where the author is paying the publisher. So that they're all maybe there never was a rigid division between them, but I think in some cases that line might be blurring.
Mm-hmm.
There are options. Bit of stigma around it, justifiably in some cases. Then there's trade publishing, self-publishing, and I suspect as well that there's a lot of independent consultants out there
Mm.
who perform many of the functions traditionally associated with publishing. So they would advise authors about marketing, promotion. They might arrange the printing of the book if they have a physical book. If it's an ebook, they might arrange for the creation of the ebook file. They might arrange for it to be sold on Amazon or an e-commerce site, or also for it to be distributed in physical bookstores. So there's a whole there are options.
Mm. Yeah.
We actually do a little bit of that as well. Like if an author came to me, Mark,
Mm.
and we had worked with them, and we had worked with them, from an editing point of view, and they didn't feel trade publishing was right for them. They didn't feel like they wanted to approach a big like Penguin or Hachette or O'Brien or Merriam or one of the publishers here. Just didn't feel that was right for them, and that was my advice too. Then I could advise them about self-publishing. I'm more than happy to do that, and I've done that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a specific service for it yet, but like, I always offer authors the option of consultations. They can I can offer a range of advice on all aspects of the book world, and self-publishing is one of them.
Mm. Now that sounds amazing. Yeah.
Many options out there. You're dead right. I did a lot of work actually with LetterTech, which is a printing, mainly a printing operation, but also self-publishing consultancy. Very, very good companies and really, really great people there, and they really help authors. So you're dead right, Mark. There's many, many options. It isn't just an either or. It isn't just, and some people get the impression that they self-publish, they're on their own. They're not. There's a lot of companies out there. They may not be publishers, but they provide many of the functions that publishers traditionally do, and LetterTech is certainly up there.
Yeah, because that sounds like really good advice. So like what I take out of it as well is don't be afraid if you're starting off, because there's a lot of people have started have talents that they just discovered during this pandemic. Like, would you agree with me? There's a lot of people that are trying new stuff like writing and all kinds of stuff, like even learning languages. So I think it's very important for people just even that want to self-publish, but it's not the end of it. They can go to people like you that can give them guidance. Would you agree with me there, Jeremy?
Yeah, I would, and I think lockdown has been a kind of an ironic time in that respect. It's been, I think it's, it's really damaging to society. But I think for many people, it has had it's been sort of cultivating in some respects. They have gained more skills. They've taken an interest in writing and reading, and absolutely. And when it comes to me and what we do with JM Editing and Literary Agency, if you feel that you don't fit into any of the services we offer, like if you don't have a manuscript, for example, and therefore you can't avail of the editor's report, and you don't have the self-publishing advice doesn't suit you either, you're going to reach out to me anyway. I'm always there. I'm open to give advice. We have a free consultation service, 15-minute free consultation to every potential client. So reach out. We can have a chat, and if I can help, I will help.
That's brilliant. That's funny. I was going to ask you there, Jeremy. Like for people listening, like you know, when they ring you, what's the process like from like not start to finish, but like, you know, every case would be different, every book is different. I respect that, but just a kind of like a broad kind of explanation of what way it runs for first time people contacting you if they have a manuscript, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, well, it can vary, Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I often get email requests, so you know somebody can just do an email. They can give a synopsis of the book. It can be an attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And it can often evolve. Like some people can come looking for copy editing, and we can end up. I can end up doing an appraisal for them because they discover that they can really benefit from that. And they can ring me up too. And I usually what the initial conversation entails is really me determining what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people, you know, they may not be entirely clear what they need.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably to do with the industry as well, because it's kind of a little complicated, the industry really, and there's a lot of sort of it requires a bit of navigation. So, like, really, what the initial conversation involves is me, the client telling me what the book is about, what book they want they want to write,
Mm-hmm.
and it entails me. It entails me really determining how we can help.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's brilliant, Jeremy. Thanks very much. I'm sure that's really big help for the listeners. But another thing I was going to ask you is, you know, for instance, what kind of books did you write yourself when you were a writer, Jeremy? What kind of books were you interested in writing yourself? When you yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a good one. I wasn't expecting that. I, a wide range, I suppose. Like when I was a teenager, I wrote poetry.
Oh, very good.
I think
Yeah.
poetry was my first love, my first literary love.
Mm.
You know, all kinds. I think it was probably I was inspired by modernist poetry. So I was in college. I wrote a lot of long, overwritten, self-indulgent modernist poetry, probably imitating Eliot, Pound, that sort of milieu.
Mm.
But I think the muse deserted me, and but if she ever returns, I suppose I'll be happily possessed. But I have to say I'm very happy to say I have ghostwritten books as well,
Okay.
Which is quite interesting, and I like.
Mm.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't offer it officially as a service now, JM Editing Literary Agency yet, but I'm at present actually ghostwriting a book, so that's something I quite like doing.
What does that involve? Ghostwriting for people that haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, it can be tough. It can be tough. It takes a lot of work, and whether I'll do it again, I'm not so sure. But I do enjoy it.
What do you have to do? What way does it work? Sorry, Jeremy, I've heard of the term ghostwriting, but I just maybe you might just explain it a bit. Thanks, if you don't mind.
It really very much depends. Like so I've done. It very much depends on like sometimes you can get a manuscript.
Okay.
That's very raw.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's a really good story, and the writer really wants a book. They want to tell the story.
Yeah.
But it's raw. You've just got the bones
of
something there. And what that will involve, and I've done this for one client before, where I take it and I reconstruct the sentences, I build the story. So effectively, you know, the easiest metaphor to use there, Mark, is you know, you've the foundations of a house. So the job really as the ghostwriter comes sort of extensive copy editor is really just to build, change the sentences, revamp it, write certain new passages and so forth. So it's a very elaborate ghostwriting / copy editing.
Yeah.
There is another project I have done. I'm nearly complete, where the client dictated his memoir onto a dictaphone,
Okay.
and we did a few interviews as well.
Mm.
And my job is to take the oral testimony, the oral memories, and really just transcribe them and build narratives around them and just really tell the story.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I did very much enjoy that, and it's not quite finished yet. There's another little bit go, but it's almost finished. I very, very much enjoyed that.
I'd say so. Yeah.
And I enjoyed doing it.
Mm.
Whether I'll do it again, I'm sure, because it does take an awful lot of work.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds it.
And
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
when you're running the business at the same time, you can
Yeah.
imagine.
I know.
But it's just so it involves like firstly writing the story, then doing the research, and then just getting the tone right, getting the personality right. But yeah, it is something like from the, I suppose, the writer's side to me. I would like to write a book again, even if my poetic inspiration remains dormant. But I would like to write a book again. But I definitely I enjoyed. So I ghostwrite complete. I've ghostwritten two complete books, and I've done extensive copy editing / ghostwriting to another one, and I may do that again. We'll see how things go.
You'd be well used to editing your own book down as well. you'd be
well, I would mention, I would mention, and it's funny you say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I would mention it's very, very bad idea to edit your own work.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, yeah.
It's a bad idea to edit your own work, and that's why I'm really privileged with JM Editing, a literary agency. I work with Sarah and me. So, and they're both brilliant. They're both different, but they're both very, very brilliant at what they do, and they really add an awful lot to the business. Yeah. And I can assure you, anything I ghostwrite, I will get somebody else to edit. Because,
yeah, you're getting to
I've
work.
been telling writers, Mark,
yeah.
I've been telling writers for a long time now that they can't edit their own work. They need to come to me and pay me to do it. So it's in my turn now, I have to pay somebody else to edit anything I write, because that would only be fair. Yeah, and it's true. It's very, very tough to edit your own work. You can't get that objective perspective on it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, because that's really helpful for the listeners. Thanks very much, Jeremy. Thanks a million. Because I might ask you as well, what type of books and stories are you getting at the moment? What like with the lockdown, what kind of different kind of stories are most popular that are coming to you at the moment, Jeremy? Do you have like I suppose there's lots of different ones, but what kind of topics are the most popular at the moment for writers?
Yeah, it's hard to know. It's like
probably a mixture, is it?
Yeah, it's probably, I haven't noticed any obvious trend, Mark.
Yeah. Okay.
I suppose the only trend I've noticed, and again now here I have to say I might be wrong here. It could just be coincidental. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
And I could be off with this, and other editors and other publishers might contradict me on this. But from my perspective, I have noticed there's a predominance in dark content.
Okay.
It's been that little bit darker this year. I'm just looking at the novels, like nonfiction, it's harder to notice any obvious trend, but with the fiction I've received 2020 versus 2019 or 2018, it wasn't very advanced in 2018, but I think the fiction I've received in 2020 has been that little bit darker in terms of subject matter, and just in terms of themes, in terms of character, in terms of subject matter, just a little bit darker. Now, that could just be a coincidence. I'd be interested actually to hear what other freelance editors, publishers, commissioning editors, so forth, their experience. But my experience is that the subject matter is that little bit darker.
Yeah.
Didn't surprise me, because I think this is actually quite a dark time.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, hopefully, as you said earlier on, the things are starting to look a bit brighter. Hopefully by the summer, or things will start getting back to some kind of the new normal, but some kind of normality, hopefully.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
that the little things, Mark, little things in life, going for a coffee, going for a
Yeah.
pint, social interaction. I hope
Yeah.
that comes back.
Big time.
Like we
Exactly.
had that in the depths of the Second World War, the depths of the First World War.
I know.
We need those little things so much.
Definitely.
So once that comes back, like I think there'll be I think we'll have a few tough years economically. There will be scars left from this, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I think if the little things come back, the small joys in meeting someone for a cup of coffee, meeting someone for a drink,
Yeah.
an Irish wedding, for instance.
Yeah. There'll be lots of them when it opens back up again.
Oh, hopefully, Mark. Hopefully. Hopefully.
Yeah. But no, thanks very much for this. So, Jeremy, like, just say, for instance, you get like a piece of work that you feel wouldn't really be going anywhere, or not your kind of cup of tea, so to speak. Or would you take any kind of manuscript, or would you, if you felt that, look, that's not my kind of cup of tea, or don't feel it's going to be great, would you ever come across something like that, or do you take everything at face value?
I'm very inclusive, Mark, to be honest with you, when it comes to work now. I'm quite inclusive.
Very good, yeah.
I'm very eager to help writers when they come to me.
Yeah.
And I treat everyone with respect. I'm open-minded. I'm very eager to help.
Yeah,
I'm kind of service orientated in that respect, as a business person.
Yeah.
I'm very eager to assist a client.
Mm.
If someone has put time into it,
yeah,
and it's important enough to seek my advice, seek my professional assistance, then I'm eager to help. I'm not the kind of person who says that turns anyone away.
Yeah.
There was one submission I got that had a flicker of had sort of uncomfortable content, and like, again, when I say uncomfortable content now, I my standards are I'm very inclusive, very open-minded when it comes to that now. I, like, for instance, I didn't subcontract it for proofreading now, to which I usually do, to a member of the team. I just kept it myself because I felt that this was just a little problematic. It's the sexual content, and it was like, and again, look, normally I'm an editor. People write novels of all sorts of subject matter. I'm open-minded. I'm inclusive. I'm not easily shocked. I'm not easily offended. I'm just, as a matter of principle, I very strongly believe in free speech. I very strongly believe that writers need to be creative and need to be free to create. But I just felt that in a particular novel, some of the sexual content was a bit problematic. I think the listeners probably guessed what I'm talking about. But I still did it. But I didn't subcontract the proofreaders because I just didn't want to involve them. That's the only example and the only time I ever felt like saying no to a book.
No, that sounds like a breath of fresh air for a lot of writers, I say, because I'd say a lot of people in this kind of profession probably can get a lot of throwbacks, like people not want to take their work, or so that sounds really good, Jeremy. Thank you for that.
No problem, my pleasure.
But that's great. And I might just ask you a few of your favorites, Jeremy, if that's okay. A few of your favorites. Do you have a favorite book you've written yourself, or you've read yourself, or a favorite author?
Oh my word, that's a tough question. That's a really, really tough question. No, I don't think I have a favorite book, Mark. I think I have a kind of a pantheon of the gods. I have my literary titans, and I just love their books. But I love a lot of I love Joyce, James Joyce,
James Joyce,
Thomas Mann, Dostoevsky, Hemingway, Patricia Highsmith, John Updike. I have a lot of writers I really love, and non-fiction as well.
Mm.
Um, there's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of writers I really like.
There's a lot of
I
really
don't have
good.
one favorite.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of good non-fiction books out there as well, isn't there? There's a lot of really helpful books as well, isn't there? Like one that
There is
springs.
there is there is a lot of really
Yeah,
helpful books, and I like current affairs books. I like
yeah,
authors again with an independent mind
yeah,
when it comes to
yeah.
nonfiction.
Mm.
Um, I'm reading that book actually on that subject. I think William Dalrymple is his name. He wrote The Holy Mountain,
Okay,
book about Byzantine culture and about modern Turkey.
okay.
Very good book. Has a very good historian. Has an independent mind,
Mm.
and to balance the odds as well, because that book is a little critical of Turkey. The Turkish novelist Orhan Pamuk.
Mm.
I'm reading him again recently. A very very fine writer. I'm actually reading. I must say, and I don't know, does anyone else find this, Mark? But because I'm working on books
Mm.
during the day, and I have some very long days now. I don't finish till 8 or 9 at night,
Yeah.
and that's starting at 9 in the morning. And I
Okay.
just, when I finish, I don't feel like reading a book again because I've had
No.
my head
Sure.
in a
Yeah.
book all day, and I've had my head on the screen. And the
Yeah.
last thing I want a
Mm.
book, so I actually stick on when I feel like reading for pleasure.
Mm.
What do you mean,
Yeah.
really? When I feel like reading, not professionally, but reading just for pleasure.
Pleasure. Yeah.
Audiobooks, Mark,
Oh
are a
yeah,
great
great. Yeah, they're really good.
resource
Yeah.
to me. I'm
Yeah.
I'm very I'm getting really into them, and
Mm.
I love night, particularly weekends,
Mm.
and particularly weekend afternoons. If I take a weekend off, like a Sunday off or something, I'd stick on an audiobook.
Yeah. Or podcasts are great as well, aren't they? They're really good. Even like there's a really good podcast if you have a chance to listen to them. Even the listeners now, it's called What You Will Learn, where
Okay.
yeah, there's two Australians, and they talk about different books, and they rate them, like the both of them read all these different books, and they give their best parts of the book. So I find that really really good. Like there's lots of good podcasts out there. Do you like any podcasts, Jeremy?
I do like some podcasts. I like your podcast,
Oh,
Mark.
thank you, Jeremy.
Good
Thank you.
fact. And I think if you don't mind, I'll tell listeners as well how I was alerted to your work.
Oh, yeah, great. Thank you,
You
Jeremy.
interviewed a client of mine,
Hmm.
Heloisa
Yeah, that's
Toyota.
right. Yeah.
And you asked me actually earlier as well about sort of recent success. Heloisa is a constant success,
Mm. Yeah.
and she has books. She is so prolific,
Hmm.
and I have a book as well that's been translated into English.
Hmm.
Um, or sorry, no, I have that in reverse. It was actually originally written in English, but it's been published in Portuguese as Vigilantes do Vento.
Yeah.
And Heloisa co-wrote it with Adrian Gehagen.
Mm.
And I mention it simply because it's another book, the English version, The Wind Riders, I'm currently seeking a publisher for. And it's worth mentioning because you did a fantastic interview with
Oh,
Heloisa,
thank you.
Mark.
Thank you. Yeah.
Really interesting. It was a great meeting of minds, great chemistry, and on the subject of podcast, I'd well recommend it. It's a very good listen.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks very much, Jeremy. Appreciate that. That's really good. Thank you.
No problem. No
But
problem.
yeah, so in the likes of might get back a bit to self-publishing. Like I know what you said, like you have to do most of your work when you're self-publishing. Would you have any tips, for after you do your editing and your appraisal? Would you kind of have any tips for listeners that have self-published a book to promote it? What would your do you have any kind of ways to say like this is the best ways to promote your book? Can you think from your experience? Have you thought what's the people that's got the most success of where they've advertised?
Yeah, it's a tough question, Mark. It's a good question though.
Yeah,
Um, it's hard to generalize. I would
yeah.
have to know specifics about the author.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Like it would also a big thing there is budget, Mark, with
Yeah,
self-publishing.
yeah, yeah.
Like budget can constrain a lot what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But there is a lot of things you can do that on a limited budget as well, or even for free.
yeah.
I think if you have a book and you ask specifically about promotion and marketing,
Mm.
um, I think creating a social media page and picking one social media channel.
Mm.
So there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Pick one of them
Yeah.
and work on it and update it and create interesting content.
Mm.
So if you're an author out there, you just self-publish your book and you want to get readers, that's one good tip, and that's free largely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
If you set up a social media account and you keep it updated, you keep it active, and you don't just start constantly pitch your book either. You create interesting, relevant content to your readers. So, for example, if you had a history book, a local history of Ireland in the First World War or something.
Yeah.
If you created posts, maybe interesting photographs, links to interesting articles on that subject, and you built your followers on that social media page, then you can be in a position to increase your readership. So that's one tip, and that can be done for free. So a well-managed social media page.
Yeah.
And finally, as well, another thing to look into. I won't labor the point now because again, it's a very, very long, complicated subject.
Yeah.
But if you are self-publishing a book, and this is a good tip, if you're self-publishing a book or you have self-published your book and you're eager to promote it, and you're looking for ways to promote it, creating an email subscription list is actually something to do.
Yeah.
Again, it's not easy to do, but it really, like a social media page, if you can create a database of subscribers. Now, how do you get subscribers? You could give away a free chapter of the book in return for their email, and then they become an email subscriber. And you keep, don't overdo it, but every month send your subscribers a newsletter, or maybe if you're a fiction writer, a short story, or a video of you reciting some of your work. You build up a subscriber network and database, then that can help you increase your readership. So that's two tips: social media page, email subscriptions.
That's really good. That's great advice. Thanks very much, Jeremy.
Yeah, no problem.
That's great. That's great help for the listeners. Thanks a million. Now, this has been great. This has really been great talking to you. And do you have your favorite movie you like to chill out and watch? Like, say, it'd be a nice break from the books for a while.
Yeah, I do. I like movies. I love the cinema.
Yeah, that's one I miss as well. Yeah.
I miss the cinema. I just love the magic of the cinema. I love going into that dark room and the lights dimming suddenly, and then these images playing across the screen. I just think it's a wonderful experience, and I'm looking forward to going there again.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, no, I do like I like films. Yeah, I just finished that Behind Her Eyes, that adaptation on Netflix. I was quite absorbed in that for a couple of weeks.
Very good, yeah.
Favorite films, again, it's like asking me my favorite bookmark. It's hard to choose.
Yeah.
I have my sort of pantheon of the gods there. It's very, very hard to choose.
Yeah.
But I do like films, and again, I particularly like cinema, and I'm looking forward
going back there.
That's one of the things I miss, and I'm really looking forward to going back.
Yeah, no, because like, do you find that, like, you find that some of your people, like some of your authors that you've helped in the past, have a way of getting their stories into films? Did you ever find that anybody has done that, Jeremy?
Not yet. Heloisa has.
Oh, that's right. That's great.
And she had a very successful. One of her scripts was bought by Warner Brothers, actually.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
and it was made into a very successful film. She has. It's possible. Like, it's something. If you are an author, you've written a book,
Mm.
you have to really be alert to what they call subsidiary rights.
Mm.
The subsidiary rights to a book would be the rights to convert it into a script and adapt it into a film or a TV series. And you have to be very, because there is that, it can be very lucrative.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You can make big money there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if you are an author and you have a book contract in front of you, you gotta take, and if you have an agent, you gotta make sure the agent pays attention to that. And if you don't have an agent, you have to pay attention to yourself. It's a very important clause. You have to know what percentage of a subsidiary right. If the book is licensed to a film studio to make a film out of it, you need to get a cut of that.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, that's great advice. Thanks very much, Jeremy.
No
And
problem.
do you have any favorite music as well? Do you like listen to? Do you have any favorite bands or artists you like listening to?
I go through stages.
Me too. Yeah.
Like unsurprisingly, I like music with a poetic element. I love Leonard Cohen. I
Mm.
love Bob Dylan. I love Neil
Oh
Young.
yeah, Bob Dylan's great. Yeah.
I'd listen to that really all day.
Mm.
It's music for the soul.
Yeah.
But I like blues singers as well. I even like dance music occasionally. I put it on the
Yeah.
morning just to sort of
Yeah.
get the blood pressure rising, get the heart
Yeah.
rate up, and just to
Mm.
sort of prep me up for the day. Classical music too.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, a broad range, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do love music. Yeah.
Because I
Um,
get just what you're saying there about the dance music. They can really kind of uplift you. Like if you're feeling anyway tired or down, it can kind of change your change your state, can't it? Like it's great.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
you can. I think it's a
Mm.
sort of a distant relative of what music was in sort of tribal cultures, where
Mm-hmm.
you've drums and
Yeah.
it's sort of
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
very elemental and kind of primordial type of music. And
Yeah.
I put left field on this morning,
Mm.
just to sort of prep me up and get the heart rate going and sort
Yeah.
of
Very good. Yeah.
psych me up a little bit. And then
Yeah.
I might listen to Chopin at night, and then or Leonard Cohen or John Prine or something like that.
Yeah. Great. Great.
But so I sort of all across the spectrum.
Because I went to see Bob Dylan and Neil Young there in Kilkenny. There, I think it was last year. It was a great concert. Like,
I'm green with
yeah,
envy. I'm
yeah.
green with envy,
It's really good.
Mark. I
Yeah,
really am.
really good.
I had the opportunity of, I missed two opportunities. I had the opportunity to see Leonard Cohen in Kilmainham, and I also had the opportunity to see Nick Cave
Mm.
in Kilmainham, and I really cursed myself for missing both opportunities
Yeah.
because I won't obviously get the opportunity with Leonard Cohen against the deceased, and
Oh no, sad.
Nick Cave when he'll ever come back, I don't know.
Yeah. But let's hope the music scene gets back to normal as well. No, that's great, Jeremy.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
and not just for the music, but for the social
Social element,
occasion.
yeah,
I think the
exactly.
idea of going to a concert and mingling and letting ourselves go
Yeah.
and freeing ourselves of inhibition,
Mm.
it's a very necessary part, I think,
Yes,
of
definitely.
human society, and I think
Definitely.
we're very much deprived of it, particularly the young.
Yeah, they're very hard for
It's
them. Very hard
almost
for them.
a rite of passage for music
Mm-hmm.
that you can
Yeah.
go to a gig and
Yeah.
just release all that pent up energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fact that we can't do it now has to have some take almost psychological toll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. I really appreciate you coming on, Jeremy, tonight. I might just ask you one last thing before you go. Because it's Mark's motivational podcast, could you kind of give anybody out there listening, what would you say to people to motivate them if they're feeling like a bit fed up at the moment? What motivates you, and what kind of, just say you had a billboard, what would you write in it, like this is how to motivate yourself?
Oh my word!
Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the
Yeah,
spot.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
What would I say to motivate? That is a good one, Mark. Um, well, I like. Um, there's a good line from J.J. Ballard,
Hmm.
who's a writer I quite like. And I think this may not be verbatim, but I think he said something along the line, stay true to your obsessions. And I think what he meant by that as a writer was that be true to your own interests, your own passions, what motivates you. And that sounds obvious, but I think it's not as obvious as it sounds.
Mm.
I think a lot of people don't stay true to their own interests. They feign interest in something they think is acceptable, or they think that something will, and I think that backfires, because I think if you try to be something you're not, you won't be any good at it.
True. Yeah.
You won't be successful at it. And if you want to be successful and if you want to be good at something, you have to follow your own interests. You have to compromise and you have to adapt to a certain degree. But I think basically and fundamentally, you have to stay true to your own interests, your own passions, your own obsessions.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant, Jeremy. Thanks very much. That's great for listeners. That's really, really good. So thanks a million for coming on tonight, Jeremy. Jeremy Murphy, everybody, founder of JM Editing and Literacy Agency. So you can check him out. And if you want to send me on all the details, or have all the details, I'm going to put them on the show notes for people to find. So definitely get in touch with Jeremy.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Yeah, then get in touch with Jeremy, and I hope you really enjoyed tonight the podcast, Jeremy.
I certainly did, and thanks to your listeners for listening, and thank you, Mark, for being such a wonderful host, and to give me such a gracious invitation. And I really enjoyed it, and such a great opportunity to talk about these things, talk about my business and so forth. I really appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome, and thanks a million. Have to do it again some other time. Take care.
We certainly will. Take care of yourself, Mark. Look after.